They say your life flashes before your eyes, right before you die. Well, it's true. I got to have that experience at the hands of my husband. At the age of 15, I thought my life was boring. I longed for more excitement, and I found that excitement in the streets with gangs. And after hanging around several of the guys, I met a man who became my boyfriend and then fiance. I didn't know at the time, but he was a gang leader and a drug dealer. And it was abusive from the start. And I knew it because, in school they would tell us, all these red signs to look for if you're in an abusive relationship. But every time I called him out on it, he just laughed and called me names. But still, he was very supportive of me getting a post-secondary education. I was isolated from family and friends. I had no one to turn to. I was haunted by a rape that happened a year prior. And I couldn't mentally process everything that was happening before me. Guys who were there one minute, murdered the next, having to handle things that no law-abiding citizen should really handle. And I asked God one day, I said, God, why don't you just end this all for me? And so I swallowed a bottle of pills. I tried to kill myself, and I only landed myself in the hospital with doctors looking at me, trying to debate whether to give me a liver transfusion. And I swore that the only way I would be free was the day that my fiancé died. Still, I managed to create love with him. And at 18, I married him when he was in a federal penitentiary. At 19, conceived our first child in the penitentiary. At 23, I was raising a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and pregnant with our third child, all while finishing a university degree. And it was really stressful at this time, being the wife of a gang leader, trying to look in our rearview mirrors for police, for enemies, looking underneath the cars for bombs before we got in. But I stayed. And one night, in a jealous attack, he punched me in the face, knocking off my glasses. I fell backwards onto the white, expensive sofa that we had in the living room. Our 3 kids were sleeping upstairs. And he got on top of me, 6'1", 270 pounds. And he put one hand on my neck, and he choked me out twice. And he looked at me and he said, "I'll kill you." And when I came to, the room was spinning. He broke a chair over me. And he came around the corner of the foyer ever so slowly, and there was an 8-inch stainless steel kitchen knife. And my heart sunk. And I hope that no one has ever been through that experience, because when you know that knife is for you, there are no words to describe it. And he came closer to me, and freedom was so close because the door was right there, but yet I couldn't leave my children because they were sleeping upstairs. And as he came to me, I prayed to God that it wouldn't hurt too much. And he walked right up to me. I didn't bother to fight. He raised the knife above my head. And I remember seeing the knife pointing directly above my head. And all I could do was brace for the impact. And I felt the knife go in and out of my head real fast. And suddenly he stopped. And I was really surprised in the moment. And I found out later that the reason he stopped was because the rosary he was wearing broke in that moment. That had him go, "What the fuck am I doing?" I don't know that I'd be here if this piece didn't break. after he had stopped, he got into one of the cars that we had. We had 2 cars at the time, and he left. And I took that opportunity to run upstairs. When adrenaline is pumping through you, you can't feel anything. I didn't know the extent of my injuries. I ran upstairs, I grabbed my 3 kids, toys, blankets, threw them in the car. And just before I went to the car, I passed by the mirror, and all I could see was blood everywhere. And I can taste enamel pieces in my mouth, like crunching on teeth pieces. And my skin was hanging off my hand, and it was just horrible. My husband was arrested and sentenced for the attack. And with a good source of support around me, I managed to leave the marriage while he was in prison. I knew deep down inside that something had to change, and that I couldn't keep going like this with 3 young children looking at me as their role model. And it was the hardest decision for me to start my life over as a single mom. And I did that for 5.5 years, and it was really challenging, but I did it. And I knew it would be worth it. And through all of this, there was a big gift that came out of it. And that was the gift of forgiveness. I always believe that there's a gift in your pain, and for me, that was the gift of forgiveness. I got to forgive him before he died, because he died suddenly in 2014. I expressed my forgiveness to him, and the day before his funeral, I expressed forgiveness to a guy who was also there. He was another gang leader, and he had held up a gun to me for not having sex with him at 16. And the same day of the funeral, I got to forgive the guy who instigated the gang rape when I was also 16. And freedom gave me so much closure. We hang on to all this resentment, but I knew that resentment was like a disease eating through my body, and I had to let it go. Forgiveness taught me that it wasn't that the other person was wrong. He wasn't wrong, he didn't do anything bad. What forgiveness taught me was acceptance. Acceptance for what happened, and being able to honor another soul's journey. And I got to find the new love of my life, who's at the back, and that's a disclaimer, so don't throw tomatoes at that husband, because it's not that husband. And my 3 children are with me, and beautiful and resilient. And all those years I was in physical, emotional, and mental incarceration, and I had to free myself. And let me tell you, freedom has never tasted any sweeter. Thank you.